Okay, let's talk about logical fallacies. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning or a false assumption that might sound impressive but proves absolutely nothing. Sometimes they're completely unintentional, but more often than not, they're used by people during debates, arguments, or presentations to mislead you into thinking, acting, or believing in a certain way. Typically, when people are losing an argument because they realize they don't have anything rational, factual, or logical to say, they resort to logical fallacies. And as you might expect, salespeople, politicians, and con artists use them all the time, often very skillfully, and the public innocently continues to fall for them. So knowing how to spot a logical fallacy and calling it out or refuting it can be an incredibly useful life tool to have at your disposal. Not surprisingly, there are a lot of logical fallacies. So to learn them all is a huge task. But to help you on your way, here's a list of 10 of the most common ones for you to get your head around and start on your journey of detecting them and dealing with people who use them. Let's start with probably one of the most common offenders. Also called poisoning the well or the personal attack, you've no doubt seen the ad hominem fallacy used all the time. How it works is that rather than refuting an opponent's argument, the person attacks the individual instead. This can be directed toward their character, morals, intelligence, reputation, physical appearance, or credentials. In fact, it really doesn't matter. The main thing to remember is that they're not addressing the actual argument being presented, but relying purely on feelings and prejudice to win their case. An example might be, "People like you don't understand what it's like to be of my race, so you obviously have no right to make an argument about the situation." There's also a variation of the ad hominem called guilt by association that you also need to watch out for. The second one is an appeal to authority. This is much loved and widely used. It works by stating that whatever is claimed is true simply because a so-called authority said so, rather than applying any logical reasoning or proving any evidence to support that claim. For example, raising interest rates by 3% must be in the best interest of the economy because the Fed said so yesterday on the news. Or, of course that school shooting was real. They reported on it on CNN, MSLSD, and faux news. Don't forget, an appeal to authority is an appeal to the right of one man or group of men to legitimately rule over and punish other men and take their property without any repercussions to the offender. Authority or government is the idea that someone, somewhere, has a higher claim over your life and property than you do just because they said so. The third fallacy is the straw man. With this fallacy, you argue against a phony, weak, or ridiculous position that you've created and then proceed to easily knock it down. Basically, every time you see one of those ever so funny comedy skits on YouTube ridiculing someone because they're vegan or meat eaters or millennials or Gen Xers, gun owners, pacifists, spiritual, non-spiritual, love tech, hate tech, whoever, you know how their little ruse works and what it's called. The fourth one is an appeal to ignorance. This fallacy works by using the premise that since we don't know or can't prove something, that it must be either true or false. Which, if you think about it, this is completely ridiculous because not knowing something isn't proof of anything other than the fact that you don't know something. Here are some examples. We have no hard evidence that fairies exist, which must mean they're so incredibly magical that they can make themselves completely invisible to humans. Or sometimes you might even see some appeal to ignorance nonsense dressed up like this as a serious product endorsement. "Dude, this supplement is totally amazing because no one who's ever taken it so far has become sick." Number 5, the false dilemma. This is also sometimes known as the false dichotomy, the black and white fallacy, or even the bifurcation fallacy. And this is how it works. Essentially, you reduce an argument down to only 2 options despite the fact that there may be many more. How about this one? You're either with us or you're against us. Or you either love me or you hate me. Number 6, the slippery slope, aka the domino theory. This fallacy works by taking an argument from a sensible moderate place and moving it to an extreme place by way of a one thing leads to another kind of route, regardless of any logic or rational evidence to support the claim. Number 7 is the circular argument or circular reasoning or logic. It's called this for a very good reason. because it works by repeating what has just been said as the reason that supports what has just been said. Like, you must obey the law because the law says you must obey it. And presto, you have circular reasoning. As a side note, this fallacy gained fame when it was featured in the plot of a book called Catch-22. In it, the protagonist claims he's insane in order to avoid flying dangerous bombing missions. But he finds his claim rejected on the grounds that by claiming he's insane, it actually proves that he must be sane, because only a sane man would try to claim that he was insane in order to avoid flying the deadly missions. Number 8 is the alphabet soup. This is the overuse of acronyms, abbreviations, and complex language to bamboozle people into thinking that they know what they're talking about and therefore must be right, and you're wrong and ignorant to boot. Sad to say, the health industry is rife with this sort of hogwash, often used to impress and confuse poor saps into taking a dubious course of treatment, often at great expense to their body and wallet. This is sort of an example. It is very often the case that someone suffering from DSW2 deficiency in their lymphatic C5X chromosome system will also show a 6% increase in IOK17 regression, marked with a surge in B523C plasma filament growth. The obvious solution to this problem is a course of X-band Pharma FSX17 meds twice daily and 6 X-band Pharma HFD tablets every 3 days in the morning with a glass of water. Number 9, the bandwagon. The bandwagon fallacy works on the basis that something is correct, good, true, right, or whatever the heck you want it to be just because most people think it is. It's named after the horse-drawn cart that politicians used to travel around on, shouting their dubious election promises and drawing attention to themselves so that people would give them their support and vote for them. And if you were dumb enough to be one of them, you could literally jump on the bandwagon and enjoy being taken for a ride. Anyway, no surprises here, but it's a completely fallacious argument. Just because lots of people might all agree with each other about something doesn't mean for 1 second that they're all correct. Matter of fact, oftentimes when you see the majority of people saying the same thing, usually what they're saying is wrong. 1 billion people drink Diet Coke every single year, so it must be the best, most healthy soft drink in the world, man. Number 10, the red herring. This is a pretty famous one, but you may not recognize it in real life. So how does it work? Well, the red herring is a clever, irrelevant argument that distracts you from the real topic being scrutinized. Apparently named after the smelly fish used to train hunting dogs, it's most frequently employed by crafty individuals who want to lead the conversation away from the area that they're vulnerable in and into one they feel is safer territory. As you might imagine, guilty politicians absolutely love the red herring and will use it in almost every answer that they can possibly get away with. Why are we raising your taxes? Well, we need to increase taxes to generate more revenue to support the existing commitments to primary school education. After all, children represent the future of the country, don't they? So we absolutely, unequivocally must always support them 100% by raising taxes. Don't you agree? And I'm going to give you a bonus fallacy. Number 11, political correctness, also known as language control. Most people are for equality and fairness. But this postmodern day piece of fallacious sophistry used to have another name. Ironically, it was once simply known as the name-calling fallacy. How it works is you change the nature of something by giving it another name. We've seen this many times on CNN. People are no longer poor, but economically disadvantaged. They're not broke, but have a temporary negative cash flow situation. And of course, they no longer live in slums, but in economically depressed urban environments. Naturally, the world of commerce and industry are masters of it just as much as governments are. Have you noticed how bad debt is now an underperforming asset? Shell shock became battle fatigue, which then became post-traumatic stress disorder. Toilet paper is now bathroom tissue. False teeth became dental appliances. Information became directory assistance. The dump is now the landfill, and constipation became occasional irregularity. There's also another way that politically correct logic, often the total opposite of factual correctness, can be used very effectively. Rather than simply renaming things, words can also be weaponized by turning them into control words, which can be employed effectively, especially via name-calling strategies. These are typically used to shut down debates, inhibit critical thinking, and corral the target down carefully constructed mental pathways and safely away from the issue being discussed. If you've got any more logical fallacies to add to the pile, leave them in the comments section below. Guys, thanks for watching. I create at least one new video every day. If you get something out of this content and you want to be alerted when I upload new material, subscribe to High Impact Vlogs, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, and share it with everybody you know. Because the specter of censorship and termination looms over channels like mine, be sure to subscribe to my free private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. And if you think it's worth helping the cause of truth here on this channel, you can support my work on Patreon or PayPal, or you can grab a hard-hitting shirt from the most politically incorrect shirt store on the planet. There are over 100 kick-ass designs, and I'm adding new ones every week. All these links are in the description and in the pinned comment. Remember, don't just believe anything and keep questioning everything. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored video.